It's me. It's Micah.
When was the last time you felt truly like yourself? Your authentic, non-performing, living life carefree, in the moment kind of self. Not the version you curate for your team Zoom meetings, social media, or even the people closest to you. The version of you that exists when no one's watching, no one's judging, and you don't feel like you have to perform. When's the last time you were present? Not productive, not prepared, not perfect, but truly present. If you've ever wondered why you feel exhausted even when you've done everything right, if you've been showing up for everything but yourself, if you're doing what you said you wanted, but it suddenly doesn't feel like enough, this episode is for you. Today, you and I are going to dive deep into what it really means to show up for yourself in the most authentic way possible, especially when you've got the things you asked for, but suddenly they no longer spark that same excitement, joy, or passion. Because you made time to listen to this episode, I know that you're the kind of person who is truly seeking a life that has true substance, realness. Let's talk about what happens when you finally get something you prayed for. You ask for it, you manifest it, you work hard, and then boom, it's finally yours. But then what? This is the part no one tells you about. The grind does not stop, and the shine on that thing starts to fade, and you're left starting to wonder, what now?
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Part of the reason this week's episode is coming 2 days late is because my prized possession, my iMac, my Mackenzie, decided to start running like an ancient artifact, waiting longer than an hour for my computer to log in after typing in my password, waiting 30 minutes just to get Chrome to open up as it's bouncing up and down in my dock, and I'm staring back at it, about to lose my mind, just to have to restart it and repeat the same tired old cycle all over again. And that's how I ended up at the Apple Store at Birkdale Village in Huntersville. Shout out to Michael. He really took his time to walk me through options. I ended up getting a MacBook Air at Best Buy instead, where the customer service was just as solid. I met a couple of employees who actually subscribed to my podcast on the spot, and one even shared it on his Instagram. Shout out to you guys. And it got me thinking. These small moments, they remind you that you're actually doing what you asked to do. You're building something real, but real comes with responsibility and oftentimes frustration and irritation. And if I'm being honest, that frustration wasn't just coming from my tech issues, it was coming from me. Because while I was out here pushing content, staying consistent, showing up, I wasn't actually taking care of myself in the process. I needed a pause. I needed to slow down, and quite literally, my iMac slowed down so much that it required me to stop and assess what I was doing. That's where the Whoop fitness band came in, and it's been a game changer. And I'm not just saying that to sound dramatic or because they're sponsoring this episode, because they're not. I mean it. This little band has been tracking my strain, sleep, and recovery in a way that my Apple Watch never could. I've worn it every day since it arrived in the mail for just about 60 days now. It showed me the hard truth. I was averaging 3 to 4 hours of sleep for 3.5 months, going to bed past 2 a.m., waking up exhausted, pushing through the day, running on E, convinced I could just keep going if I stayed disciplined. But Whoop doesn't let you hide from yourself. It gives you data, not just numbers, but insight. It breaks down your heart rate variability, your sleep stages, your recovery levels, all of it. And it made me face a hard truth. I wasn't giving myself the best chance to show up as myself. I wasn't even giving my body a fighting chance. Once I started digging into the Whoop app daily, it changed everything. I mean, we're talking full body insight, like knowing my heart rate variability, my respiratory rate, my sleep stages, how much strain my body was under from workouts or even stressful days, and whether I was actually recovering. It gives me a green, yellow, or red recovery score every morning, and it's not just for show. That score influences how I plan my day. Should I push harder today or give myself grace to rest? It tracks things my Apple Watch never did. And hey, I'm going to be honest with you guys. When my watch started loading this data, I was extremely put off by my behavior because I had not been moving my body for the past 3.5 months as normally as I do. So essentially, the app, with all of the stuff that it's tracking, like your sleep and your recovery and your strain, it creates this Whoop age. It's called your health span, and it projects the pace of aging that your body is at compared to your actual age. And so after the first 3 weeks, it finally loaded it. And I'm so embarrassed to even say this, but I'm bringing it up and talking about it because the whole point of this podcast is to be authentic. It's to be real with y'all. And so that's what I'm going to do. And to be real, it came in and said I was 7 years 7 years older than the 28 I just turned in May.
What the hell I did? What the hell on? What the hell buried?
Yes, because it don't have my data that my Apple Watch had, all these years, all that I've been putting in. It don't know it doesn't know anything about me. It's essentially, it just doesn't know. It's basing it off this little period I'm in, this little stint of time that I'm in where I'm not moving my body as frequently right now, but it don't know me. It don't know Micah. And I had to take a moment to think, and I said, well, it's basically reflecting what you have been doing for the past 3.5 months, which is barely moving your body. And that was a hard truth. It telling me I was like 35 and I'm 28. And I feel like I look like I'm in shape, but it became so much more than that. And part of why I purchased this band in the first place. I knew I was exhausted. I knew I was tired. I knew I wasn't getting enough sleep. But seeing the data in front of me really just did something to me. I mean, this Whoop age that it's giving you with your health span, it shows you and it breaks it down what's contributing to this age that it came up with, and it literally showed me that my sleep consistency, which is how often I regularly go to bed at the same time and like wake up at the same time, was so bad that it was adding over a year onto my age. And then the amount of sleep I was getting was adding over a year too. So I'm adding an extra 2 years onto my life and making myself older just by not going to bed on time and by waking up at different times and going to bed at different times every day. It also showed me that the amount of time I'm allowing my body to experience strain in these different heart rate zones on a week-to-week basis really contributed to that. And so quickly I said something's got to give, and I ended up signing up for a hot yoga class. And I am proud to report back that since I got this 3-week report back in my 35-year-old age, I am now showing to be 31.7, okay? We're headed in the right direction. Soon here, I'll be on these Reddit threads and subreddits posting about how I'm actually 10 years younger than my real age. But for now, we've taken baby steps because I'm still not getting enough steps in the day. Since I work from home, it's extremely difficult for me to make up for it, but I am headed in the right direction, guys. Nothing happens overnight, but I just wanted to share this data because this is stuff that we don't really think about you might think about it here and there, but you don't think about the impact of it long term until you see it. And there's something so powerful about being able to see that data, to have a mirror that says, hey, this is where you're overdoing it or you're ready to go. I was no longer guessing. I mean, I could look at the stats after getting little to no sleep and finally acknowledge just how exhausted I was. I was actually knowing, and that allowed me to start making real changes in my life. And it was my friend Maya, who I shouted out in episode 1, who really put me on. She walked me through the Whoop app back in May, showed me how to read my data, and helped me understand what it meant to actually take care of myself based on my own numbers. She inspires me to
Rock your body, rock your body.
more intentional, not just healthier, but wiser. I've been thinking a lot lately about what it means to actually stick to something, to see it all the way through to the finish line. My life coach Maria helped me realize that so much of what I've been struggling with is the difference between thinking and critical thinking. Thinking is surface. Critical thinking means your actions are aligned with your values, who you are as a person, and whether or not you're aligning with the morals that you have and that you truly believe in. It means you're intentionally assessing your choices. You're not just doing what you think works, you're doing what actually works for you. And that's why this podcast isn't just a hobby for me. I studied broadcast journalism. I was an on-air reporter. This is my craft. And still, I'm learning, I'm navigating, I'm doing this with you in real time. So if you're listening to this, I want you to know something. You do not have to have it all together. And guess what? Neither do I.
Wait a damn minute. Wait a damn minute.
And this theme of realignment, it didn't just show up at Best Buy. It's been showing up in my body in yoga. So many of us are holding tension, not just in our bodies, but in our lives, in our expectations, in our roles, in our fear of what happens if we stop performing. My hot yoga instructor said something that really hit me. Find room to breathe inside the pose. And I couldn't stop thinking about that. Because in actuality, let me set the scene for you. I was in a class that was 105 degrees.
Bruh.
40% humidity.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad!
And bodies lined up mat to mat. Completely drenched. Sweat is falling off of my body and smacking my mat. And yet somehow I was supposed to find room.
You cannot be for real. Oh my God, you for real. No, you for fake. No, you for real.
And that's when it clicked. It wasn't just about physical space within my body. It was mental, emotional, spiritual, making room in my mind and body where everything felt tight. Tight in my hips, yes, and probably also in my knees, but also tight in my life. Yoga helped me breathe through it. It didn't solve everything overnight, but it certainly taught me to start paying attention, not to what I think I should be doing, but to what my body is actually asking for. And at this time in my life, it's asking for more movement that's intentional. I usually work out and I go 0 to 100 real quick. I'm either doing a 75 hard or I'm doing nothing at all. And these intense workouts I'm getting at this hot yoga studio I'm going to has really allowed me to get intense workouts while still being in tune with my body and my mind and connecting those two in a better way than I have before. I've started trying to operate from a place that's more in tune with what I need, with how I feel, not just what I think. And that has made a huge difference. Breath work has become one of the most underrated yet essential practices in my life. And I've realized it's so much bigger than just breathing deep in a yoga class. It's about making room for honesty, for alignment, for you. Taking time to actually notice what your body is trying to tell you before your mind talks you out of it. So before we move on to the next part of this episode, I really want you to try something with me. It might come off a little weird, but trust me. Let's take some deep breaths, okay? Inhale to the top of your lungs and hold it. Ready? For 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale, like a lion's breath with your mouth wide open. Don't be afraid to really let it go. Ready? 4, 3, 2, 1. Now let's do it again. Inhale to the top of your lungs. Take a little bit more. Take a last little sip and hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale like a lion's breath with your mouth wide open, okay? 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, I'm going to do it with you this time. Ready? I know it seems a little silly. That was just a short practice. But did anything shift for you? Maybe your heart rate slowed a little, maybe your mind felt a bit clearer, and maybe you just noticed a pause, and that alone is powerful enough. Being able to focus on nothing at all and being in the moment and focusing on what it is that you're doing. Imagine what could happen if you made space for that every single day. What would your mornings look like? Your conversations with your friends, your family, your coworkers, and what would your relationship with yourself look like? Now, let's talk about what I've learned through my life coaching sessions with Maria, because honestly, the work I've been doing on my mat has opened me up to the work I've been doing in my mind at the same time. Breathing through tension, sitting with discomfort, it's all connected, okay? And my life coaching journey has made that even more clear, where the inner work is done. And yes, I do have a life coach, and working with her has been one of the most challenging yet rewarding things I've ever done. Every session, she doesn't just ask me how I'm doing, she asks me questions that help me identify why I'm choosing what I'm choosing. She'll ask me questions like, how do you rate your progress on a scale of 1 to 10? Is there anything else you would like to take on? Look at where you are right now. What has changed? Is your goal the same? Do you want to modify it? Our most recent conversation sparked the realization I had about how to be authentic, which is something I identified working with Maria is something I value the most. Authenticity is my number one value, and there's nothing I care about more than being my true self and being who I want to be and allowing people to accept me for that, and not necessarily allowing them to accept me that like I'm waiting for validation, but truly just showing up as who I am without having to try too hard and being the person that does the things that I say that I want to do. What we discussed was the difference between thinking and critical thinking, as I mentioned earlier on. Thinking is what happens when you're on autopilot. You're snapping at someone. Maybe it's your child because they did something that irritated you, or it's someone that you're in a relationship with and you're stressed. Maybe you said yes to a work commitment you know you're too drained to take on. But critical thinking is when you actually apply that moment of pause to align your response with your values. So you're asking yourself questions like, does this decision match the person I'm trying to become? Is this a choice that comes from clarity, not pressure? And a lot of times, especially early on in your adulthood, it's really easy to go along with the crew and the crowd and do what other people are doing. And sometimes, and I'm not even going to lie, I've gone along with things, especially in college, where I'm like, this doesn't really feel like me. And I've had a bad gut feeling. And sure enough, something happens where I'm like, wow, I should have spoken up and said something and chose to not be a part of it. But they're all learning lessons at the end of the day. Thinking is what we do when we're reacting. We're going through the motions and we're simply just trying to get things done. We're checking things off of our to-do list because we've got 1,000 other things that continue to pile up. Everyone has that running to-do list. But critical thinking, that's where growth lives. It's like when you're in English class and you have to critically analyze this essay question and truly break it down and using it word for word to really determine a deeper meaning and the underlying message that's there. That's where growth lies. That's where you ask questions like, why am I doing this? What do I need? What would it look like if I did less, but I did it better? And here's the thing. This podcast, it's where I process everything I've been reflecting on. It's truly a mirror for myself. And I'm not here to talk at you. I am talking with you because this is conversation that is just as much about me showing up authentically as it is about creating space for you to do the same. And hopefully through my reflection, you start to hear your own. You know what's wild? The last time I felt really free, like really, really free in my creativity was when I was a kid. I was posting on YouTube in middle school. I used to make these really funny, silly music videos where I swore I was the next biggest producer in the world. You know, I'm laughing because you could literally catch me using someone else's computer. If it had a webcam on it, just know, you knew that I was going to be on it. I was going to be using your Windows Movie Maker, or I was going to be on iMovie on your Mac. And I just vividly remember moments of running around my granny's house dressed up like Justin Bieber with some skinny, tight jeans on, okay? And I have these big clunker shoes, like skateboard shoes on that don't belong to me. I got on like a snapback and an Abercrombie hoodie that's flipped over my head to cover my hair so I look like Justin Bieber.
You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
Dancing around the house, jerking down the steps, involving all of my cousins in my nonsense. But this is where I was authentically showing up as myself. And this was before I even realized that I really had a passion for creating. And there was no pressure, there was no expectations. It was pure fun. I was editing, storyboarding, directing, acting, making something out of nothing, just because I loved it. And that version of me, I really miss her. Like, I want to make more content that makes me feel the way my music video with my little sister for Rihanna's emergency room made me feel. And so I'm going to be bringing her back, because what I've realized is this: joy isn't optional. It's the energy source for sustainability. If I want to keep doing this podcast, which trust me, I do, but not just do it, but love this podcast and love what I'm doing, I have to return to that girl. I have to return to that version of myself that had so much fun when I was creating. The one who created for her. I wasn't creating for the subscriptions on YouTube or the likes that come along with posting on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. I wasn't polishing myself for perfection, because trust me, when I look back at this stuff now, I'm like, this is... this has no business being on the internet. And even then, like, I just vividly remember there's this video, me and Blair. We did a video to Blah 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 by Kesha. And I stayed up until the early morning, going to the whole next day trying to export our video, but something was glitching on the computer we were using, and I have two versions on my YouTube page, and they both have periods of time where the screen blacks out, and I was so upset with how the production turned out, but because I put so much work into it and I really cared about what I did, I left them online. They're both still there. We both laugh at it all the time because it's honestly a mess. But it's to go to show that I didn't care about being overly polished or making a mistake. I just wanted to show up like myself. And lately, I feel like I've been over scripting, overthinking every word, every post that I put on social media, which tends to end up in me not posting on social media, every angle that I'm catching myself in when I post anything of myself, and just trying to sound like me instead of just being me the way that I was when I was making these videos. And I know some of you feel this too. Maybe it's in your relationship, your job, your role as a parent or a friend. Maybe you're showing up, doing all the right things, doing all the things you said you wanted to do, and yet something still feels off. It feels heavy, like it's taking more energy than you have to give. So I'm pressing pause, not because I am burned out, but because I want to build something that's sustainable, that's more honest, that's more me, and that's authentic, which I identified as my number one value. So after this episode, I'll be taking a 4-week break, not 2 weeks like usual, so you can expect your next episode a full month from now, or technically 4 weeks. I want to be excited again. I want to breathe again. I really want to find that space that we were talking about with yoga in your body, but in my mind, and realign before I start grinding again. This break is my commitment to integrity, to creativity, and to you, because you deserve the best version of me. Not the busiest, and certainly not the most polished. You deserve the most present version of Micah. So here's where we land. This episode, this moment right now, was me coming home to myself, okay? We talked about what it means to ask for something and then face the truth of what it takes to maintain it. We talked about fatigue, my Whoop Fitness band data that called me out, and the deep breaths that brought me back. We talked about how yoga taught me to listen to my body and how life coaching helped me recognize when I was thinking versus thinking critically, which is really important. We talked about performance, pressure, perfectionism, and how sometimes the most radical thing that you can do is just press pause. We also talked about joy, the YouTube version of Micah, the old me that I'm going to be returning back to, all the creativity, and why I'm committed to making room for that version of myself all over again. Because I think the more that I get back to my roots, the more I will just show up authentically myself. And I don't think I'll feel like I'm actually trying. I think I'll just be, and that's the whole freaking point of this podcast. Like I'm telling you guys, I'm doing this with you, okay? This is a journey. I'm not talking at you. I'm talking with you. I'm walking with you. I can walk it like I talk it. So anyways, we talked about this break, and it's not a sign of burnout, but it's actually a really brave choice to realign before I grind again. And I just want to remind you that if you've ever felt like you needed to take that moment, you shouldn't feel ashamed to do so. You should always feel like this is only going to empower you to show up as the best version of yourself. And I'm really excited to take this break because I'm going to be spending time doing the things that I want to do. So as I step back for 4 weeks, I want to leave you with some questions, something you can take with you, journal on, or just hold in your heart for when you need it most. Where are you overextending yourself just to maintain something you once asked for? Where have you outgrown your systems that you have in place, but not yet giving yourself permission to upgrade them? Where are you performing when you could be breathing and finding more space, more room, and more opportunity for something else? And what might shift if you paused without guilt? This is being unscripted with Micah. This is me showing up authentically as myself, breathing, slowing down, pausing, and finding more room, more growth, and more opportunity to be. Thank you for walking this journey with me. I'll see you all in 4 weeks with a full heart, a fresh voice, and more of me to share with you.